Let's read some Glitch in the Matrix stories, part 123. I want to tell you about the house that doesn't exist. Excuse my English, but I live in Denmark. Back in 2015, I lived with my then boyfriend. We had a good time with our neighbors who often told us about when they helped clean up abandoned houses after deaths and often took many good things home and gave the rest to families who didn't have much. Okay, already? No. That's a very nice sentiment, but no. One day they told me about a house that was about 20 minutes drive away. It had been abandoned for a long time and there were many good things out there and asked if we wanted to go out there with them. She said that the house was very old and that the door to the house had become completely stuck so that it was impossible to open, so they had crawled through a window on the other side of the house. She said that the window had broken when she took it out, so there was access that way. Are we sure that these people aren't just going into random houses of people that are alive and live there and not just like stealing? We decided to go out there. When we drove by the place, we couldn't see the house for just trees and bushes. We found the small way around to the house where everything was overgrown. You could see that it had once been a very beautiful house. Sure enough, the door was unmovable, and we went around to the other side of the house where the neighbor had said that she had taken out a window. Wait, so you went alone? I thought we were going like with the neighbor. The window was intact. She said someone must have been there and fixed it. We took the window out again. Why would someone be fixing a window in a house that people don't live there? Why is someone fixing that? This whole thing seems shady. We took the window out again and it broke like the first time they had been there. We climbed in through the window and looked around the house. It looked as if the person who had lived in the house had gotten up one morning, made his bed, and never returned. Oh, wait, I think they are with the neighbor. I was taken by the bookshelf where there were many educational books. The first one's from 1850 right up to 1997, all from different educations such as zoologist to nurse and soldier, all books with the same owner. We walked around a bit and looked, and it was impossible to say how old the person who had lived there was. The person could have been anywhere from a 4-year-old girl to a 100-year-old man. Everything was in the house. Jewelry, toys from several generations, clothes for all ages and genders, and there was only one bed in the house and only dishes in the kitchen for one or very few people. There was no electricity in the house, which was also quite strange. Maybe this person was like a hoarder or something? This is weird. After some time, we had collected a few things and climbed out of the window and drove home. A few days later, we drove out to the house again. Almost the same experience again. The window was intact again, as if it had never been broken, and when we took it out, it broke like the last time. What is happening? The bed was made and the house looked as if we had never been in there before. Everything was in its place. And we hadn't exactly cleaned up after ourselves the last time we were there. The third time we visited the house, it was a windless day. The window was intact like the other times and it broke again. When we were done inside the house, I decided to try to open the door from the inside, even though our neighbor had said it was completely stuck. But it opened as if it was a brand new door. It started blowing inside the house and I thought it must be because of the broken window. The other three had gone out the door and gone into the car with all the things. I was the last one in the house, and when I picked up the last box from the floor, I heard someone screaming inside the house. It was not a cry from a human, but a scream of warning. I rushed out the door and ran to the car. When I looked back at the house, the door was closed. And the other three asked where I came from when they had come out the window as we used to. I told them that I had gone out the door, but they didn't believe me. The door couldn't be opened. And I told them that they had just left the door too. They looked at me like I was crazy. We drove home and shared things between us. Among other things, I got a really nice glass vase that I had not seen before. We never went out to that house again as I was terrified after the scream and the door I came out of was suddenly closed again. I don't blame you. When I drove by the place 3 months later, there was no house. No trees, bushes, or anything to indicate that there had ever been a house. I love when stuff disappears. I asked my boyfriend at the time about the house, but he had no memory of us ever being there or that it existed. I tried to find the house on Google Earth to show him the pictures of it, but it was nowhere to be found. Only the fields I saw when I drove by the place. I tried to go back in my GPS to find the address that we had driven to, but the address was not there, as if it never happened. I therefore went over to our neighbors and talked to them about it since they were the ones who told us about the house. They didn't remember or knowing about such a house and thought that I must have been stressed and perhaps that it had been a dream. But I showed them the vase that I still had at home. They said that they had never heard or seen such a house and there had been fields in that area for as long as they could remember. I'm literally done. After some time, both our neighbors and ourselves began to dream strange things like windows being smashed and men walking around our houses at night. We moved out of our house soon after and so did the neighbors, and the dreams and sounds stopped. We then lost contact. I met them again in 2019 and talked to them about the house, but they still couldn't remember anything from there, and I decided I didn't want to confront them about it anymore. To this day, I still have the vase from the house that never existed. Oh my God, this was such a good one.